Hey, what's up, everyone? I want to welcome you guys to another episode of Here's What I Think with your host, Charles Tabansi, where we discuss everything from current events, economics, politics, and how it all relates to business and life. And today we have a very, very interesting show in store for you guys. Before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, this is a topic that I'm actually going to really, really enjoy because these things just interest me. They're just very, very interesting to me. So just kind of combing through the internet, and I came across a pretty interesting segment from the channel, the Iced Coffee Hour, and it's actually from their Short Clips channel. And it featured, of course, Grim Stephan, who you all know, some of you know, let me just say, and of course, Patrick Bet-David, who's much more widely known, right, from Valuetainment, businessman, and all of that. So they were on there talking about the economy and all of these different things, who he supports and all of that. And they got to the part where they were talking about the day Donald Trump decided to come to Valuetainment. Now, some of you may be aware that prior to the election day rather, Donald Trump went on the Valuetainment or PBD podcast. They had, I think, an hour and a half show. I didn't see the full show, but I saw some clips of it, of him interviewing Donald Trump. And what was interesting is, as you're watching the clip, you just see two people talking, right? You just see two people talking. And you have no idea what's going on in the background, none whatsoever. So in this clip, the Iced Coffee podcast, he was like, so what was it like when you first heard you were going to be interviewing Donald Trump, the president? And what was that day like? Like, what was it like with the Secret Service and all of that? And folks, the story that Patrick Bet-David told, I thought was just so entertaining. When he told it, and I think a lot of you guys would find it pretty interesting hearing what it was like the day Donald Trump went to go interview with Patrick Bet-David. So take a listen to what he had to say here, and then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to his remarks here.
You recently had Trump on the podcast. I want to know, what was that like behind the curtain? What was it like when he came through the office? How was he off camera?
So great question. So first of all, 5 days before the interview, Secret Service came to our office every day to say, you need to move this, you need to move that, we need to build this, that can't be here, employee second floor need to be gone. So we had to move 100% of our second floor. We have around 40 or 50 employees. Everybody had to leave because they had to know 100, or they can stay and everyone needs to give their ID to find out what their background is. So we asked second floor to leave. Everybody's like, what's going on? People thought there was a termite issue because there was a tent. So they said, why is the tent here? Vinny's like, I think there's termites in this building. And that's what's going on. So we couldn't throw everybody off. Saturday, Sunday, they came back. And then on Monday, when they came through, 2 fire trucks, 2 ambulance, 1 fire truck, 2 helicopters, 40 cars outside. My wife brought the kids to meet the president. And Secret Service comes and says, man, we know who you are. You have to go park across the street for now because the president just showed up. Maybe in about 10 minutes, you can come back here. Super protective. In the back in our control room, there's like 500-600 buttons to press. They come in and they say, we can't do this interview unless if we press every button and mess. So imagine you're working the control room and they're going boom, 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 just like a kid in an elevator, right?
Wow.
They're pressing everything, switch, switch, switch. Okay, great. So now our people have to come back and let's get everything back in control, what it was like to get it back in its place. And then once they showed up, the team was phenomenal. A lot of the folks watched the podcast, so it was friendly. I pull up on my Porsche and I see German Shepherd jumps in my car. Hey, sir, you got to get out. Boom. Looking at everything that's going on under the car. Open this, open that. To the T. Snipers on top of the building. And then we sat down and we had the conversation. And then obviously an hour and a half later, people are downstairs lined up to want to take pictures, only the people that were approved. The entire city was shut down. Everybody on Oakland Park's Facebook page are like, there is something going on at Valuetainment. They're under attack. Something's going on. There may be a shooting. And they're like, no, the president was there. Got it. Everyone lost their minds when he left, but the city was shut down for a good 24 hours.
So you couldn't say anything to your employees or anybody?
My wife found that a day before the interview.
You kept it from your wife? You couldn't even mention to her?
Well, no, but that's how I am, though, because when I'm doing surprises or anything big, I don't tell it to anybody except for 2 or 3 people, and then we bring you in, and we tell you if you want a long-term relationship with us, this is a test for you. You're going to be one of the few people that know, are you fine with this kind of a responsibility? If it's leaks, it's one of you guys that couldn't keep your word, and long-term, you can't be in meetings like this. Can we trust you? Yes. Are you sure? Yes. Do you guys vouch for him? We do. Great. Here's what's happening. We're having President Trump here at XYZ. Like Adam is a lot out there partying and being around a lot of different people. Adam found out about the interview 1 hour before he was coming. We recorded it and we said, hey, do you know what's going on right now? No, what's going on? Everybody's telling me something's going on. Well, the president's going to be at 5990 in the next hour and we're going over there right now. Get the F out of here. Wow. You're kidding me. No. So we kept it. My kids didn't know. My dad didn't know. Nobody knew.
And when you were recording, how many feet away would you say was the nearest officer?
So imagine I'm sitting here where I typically sit, PBD Podcast logo, you're President Trump. There's 9 people in front of me while we're doing the interview, multiple Secret Service, some of the folks that are trying to keep them. There was a moment in the middle of the podcast that nobody saw. That was probably the biggest highlight of the podcast that we cut out because I'm getting text messages, hey, you gotta finish it. You gotta finish it. They gotta go. And I'm like, listen, I'm not doing this. I got 50 text messages from my guy saying we have to finish up. I'm prepared for 90 minutes. What are we doing here? If this is how it's going to go, we got to cut it right now. And you guys got to tell me right now, right there, President Trump told everybody, hey, we're going to go till this time. We ended up going till 4:45 to get the additional 20 minutes needed, 25 minutes needed. And then it was very interesting seeing how his team responded to, well, let's move this. I'll call him afterwards, have him come to dinner, have to do this. And very impressive on how him and his team were.
So you heard what he had to say. Now, here's what's interesting about this. I schooled in Rome for some time, and I remember the day when Obama was in Rome, I think to visit the Vatican or the Pope or something like that. And I remember us on Lungo Tevere. Some of you may know it, some of you may not. And we were at the light, and they had blocked off the entire city that day because, they had shut off, I think, some train lines and all of that. People were complaining. And we're at the bridge, getting ready to cross. You could see like the traffic stopped. And then all of a sudden, we heard it was Obama's barricade passing. As I was looking at that barricade, it was unlike anything I'd ever seen. First, you saw the police bikes pass. That was the first thing that went. Then you saw the police cars pass. Then you saw the armored cars pass. Then you saw the security for the armored cars. Then you started seeing the Secret Service coming. And you saw, I think that day they had 3 of those black Cadillac Jeeps. And the 3 of them passed, and I knew the president was in one of them. And then you saw security for that car. Then you saw the press. Then you saw the security for the press. It must have been a convoy of 50 or 60 vehicles. It was insane, but it was still so cool. It was absolutely so cool. I remember when I was in Kenya, and Obama came to Kenya, and they had to shut down all the telecommunications. I'm like, why did they do that? The reason they shut down the communications was because if the president's barricade was moving, a convoy was moving, you don't want somebody to be like, oh, I just saw him passing here. They're heading to this road. For security purposes, they actually had to disconnect people's server. It was that crazy. I remember growing up in New York when George Bush used to come to the UN and how he was shut down, completely shut down. Was it 2nd or 1st Avenue? I think they would just shut it down. And I'm like, man, this is power. So to hear Patrick Bet-David describe what that experience was like and then describe how his friends, he didn't tell his family, and then what they were doing, he was like, there were 50 people upstairs. I'm like, oh my God. He was like, there were people everywhere. I'm like, yo, what is going on? That must have been a super, super cool experience, just to meet a president, and just shows you the security. And by the way, this was candidate Donald Trump. He wasn't even the president. So can you imagine what the security detail would have been like had he been president? They would have probably had to airlift the building into the air and levitate it to ensure that it was 100% secure. Just an absolutely cool experience. But also, you got to give some credit to the Republicans here, and I'll tell you why. One of the biggest criticisms that Democrats have had, and I've listened to political strategists on the Democratic side, they said, look, this next election cycle, we need to change our strategy. And one of the things that I've heard a lot of left or Democratic or left-leaning podcasters talk about is the reluctance from some of the big key figures in their party, some senators, candidates, whoever you want to call it, not showing their unwillingness to go on independent creators, go on podcasts. He said that was a major, major mistake. But a lot of candidates on the right, including Donald Trump, he went on these podcasts. So it speaks to their open-mindedness there. And I think that was good for the Trump campaign, and it clearly worked, right? It clearly worked. So I just thought it was something pretty cool to share with the audience. You guys let me know what you thought about that explanation there. And also, if you've ever seen the president somewhere, please share your stories in the comment section. We catch you guys on the next show.